Before I bought my Switch, there were many games that caught my eye that I was desperate to play. One of those games was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Yes, it was on the Wii U, but I don't have a Wii U, and I wanted to play what looked like a fun 2D platformer. So I played it, and I liked it. With that in mind, join me as we explore, is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze the best 2D platformer of the decade? Okay, so I want to start with the movement mechanics, because they're the base of what makes this game what it is. The levels are so fun to complete because of the way you move in the game. On a basic level, you've got your run, you've got your jump, and you've got the roll and the hit. But you can combine these moves together. So if you roll and then jump, you gain considerable distance in the air, which you can use to reach secret levels and areas. When you use your hit, you can stun enemies, or sometimes even manipulate the platforms to reach hidden areas, same as before. All of this combined means that you can constantly feel in control of your movement, and works as the base that allows the rest of the game to shine. And that's before even taking into account all of Donkey Kong's little buddies, who add even more layers to the movement. Diddy has his little rockets for an added boost, Cranky has a little spear that allows you to bounce higher, and you can also use it to safely land on spikes. Then there's Dixie, who is my personal favourite as she allows you to do a little helicopter boost upwards. I just found the control with this much easier to use for me. Then we have the levels, and we'll talk about them from an aesthetic standpoint first. Artistically, they're fantastic. There's 6 worlds and then 1 hidden world, and they've got their own art styles and designs that differentiate them from one another. I won't describe them all to you, but there's footage of each world in the video at some point. The levels don't look like levels, they look like places. The platforms aren't just platforms, they're part of the world. They fit thematically with what you'd expect from a forest, or from a cave, or from a mine. It's an admirable attention to detail that makes the way the levels look so exceptional. But how do the levels actually operate? Well, they are incredible. You quickly learn the triggers for how to get past certain obstacles, and subconsciously they become ingrained in your mind. What I mean by this is you see an obstacle and immediately input the correct buttons to beat it. You don't have to sit there and figure it out or think. Whether it's through its design or another factor, this is just how it works. The best example of this is the level in the final world where everything is just dark, and you need to use the outlines to progress the level. In this level, you can't see anything, so you need to look at the outlines of the enemies and the platforms to progress through the level, and it just works. It demonstrates their strengths and platformer design perfectly. There's a ton of variety in the levels as well. I love the minecart or the rhino levels because they were all about precise timing and quick decision making. But there are also levels where you need to take your time and weigh up when and where you're going to jump. Many games would choose one of these gimmicks per level or one of the character's abilities and run with it, but Tropical Freeze chooses variety instead, and that's great to see. It also strives for variety within the levels themselves. Most 2D platformers have a singular core mechanic or gimmick that they introduce to you at the start of a level, before gradually making it harder until you have a mini gauntlet at the end where you have to prove you've mastered that single mechanic. Tropical Freeze decides, no, we're going to add 2, 3, maybe even 4 mechanics into a singular level, and we'll even mix them together. So this is how it works. Tropical Freeze will introduce you to one mechanic, then another, then another. Then it will mix up the first 2, then mix up the last 2, then mix up all 3 for the gauntlet at the end. It really is the best in the business in terms of this sort of level design. At the end of each world, there's a boss, and they are brilliant. I would love going into these things blind and trying to figure out how to defeat each phase one by one. They usually have 3 phases that gradually bump up in difficulty. Once you've figured out the gimmick though, you've only managed half of the battle. Knowing what to do means nothing, because actually pulling it off is a new matter altogether. It's not that hard on its own, but the issue is how quickly things can get bad. But I'll talk about difficulty more in the next section. Essentially, if you get hit twice, the pressure is well and truly on. Anyway, all of the bosses were grand in their spectacle and clever in their design. Really had a great time with the bosses, they were the highlight of the experience for me. Now, what about the difficulty? I've heard many people say that this game was really hard, and I agree to a certain extent that it is quite hard. It's not Dark Souls level by any means, but it's still challenging and it does push you. The main difficulty comes from the ease of death. To progress through the stage, you're going to need to complete it to perfection. You can't mistime a jump, you can't mistime a button press. It has to be bang on or you lose a life. Having one of the little buddies on your back gives you extra lives, but once they're gone, you can't get those lives back. It's incredibly difficult to not lose a life, so you have to be careful. And given how much this game asks of you in regards to successful platforming, that's where the difficulty strives from. Some other small notes about the game: the soundtrack is really cool, fits the vibe brilliantly. In terms of length, it's about 10 hours long to finish the game, but there's a bunch of hidden levels to unlock, and if you want to collect all the puzzle pieces and the Kong letters, then you could easily add many hours onto this. It's a good length for a platformer. But is it the best 2D platformer of the decade? I'm leaning towards no. It's one of them, without a doubt. I think this game is fantastic, but on a personal level, don't kill me, on a personal level, I liked Rayman Legends more, I liked Celeste more, I liked Ori and the Will of the Wisps more. Rayman Legends has so much content and it's so experimental in its level design. Celeste incorporates adult themes and a strong narrative into its type platforming, which I guess Nintendo can't really do. Whilst Ori adds top tier Metroidvania elements and deeper combat into the mix, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze does everything it tried to do near enough perfectly. But those other games for me just did a little bit more, something to take them to a level above. For me, Tropical Freeze is a solid number 4, which, don't get me wrong, is a fantastic achievement to be the 4th best game in your genre. But obviously I'm just one guy who plays games, so my opinion ultimately amounts to very little. Where does Donkey Kong Country land for you on your list of top 2D platformers? Let me know in the comments down below so we can talk about it, but for now, that's all from me. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider leaving a like, as it would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe, because I have videos just like this one every single Friday. Have a nice day and goodbye.